What's up everybody, and thank you for joining me for another video. My name is Whack4863, but you can call me Whack. In this video, we're going to jump into the dungeon at Mek Kamosis' Spire on the Exiled Lands. Now this dungeon is not accessible on the Isle of Sipta, so if you're playing over there, you will not have access to play in this dungeon. Now even though this dungeon is small, it's not like the dungeons we're used to in Conan Exiles. There's a lot to know about this dungeon, and I'm going to share all of that with you in this video. If you're looking for more information about the Age of Sorcery update, I have other videos covering this update, and I'd recommend that you subscribe for future videos about Conan Exiles if you're enjoying this kind of content. Go ahead and whack that like button, and let's get into what all this dungeon has to offer. Something that I feel compelled to mention right up front is that if you have Arachnophobia, this dungeon is not for you. This dungeon is a single room that is split into 4 different segments, where you're going to be fighting or battling against different sorcerers. The first sorcerer is going to cast the darkness spell, and along with that darkness spell, you are going to face an absolute ton of spiders. I've created chapters for this video and I marked one Arachnophobia if you want to skip that section and watch the rest of the video. Let me give you an overview of some of the mechanics for this dungeon. You can enter the dungeon at any point in time. You do not have to wait for the eclipse to start in order to enter this dungeon. If you try to enter the dungeon and somebody else has been there recently, it will give you an error message letting you know that you are unable to enter the dungeon at that time. This is a timed event. It's not like other dungeons where you can take as much time as you want and you simply have to beat the boss and exit on the other side. This dungeon is only going to last for 15 minutes. That's the entire period of time that you have to complete it. It is also a pass or fail dungeon, so if you don't complete it within that 15 minutes of time, or you die while in the dungeon, it is going to kick you out of the dungeon. One of the interesting mechanics of this dungeon is that you do not drop loot on death if you die in this dungeon. You will spawn back at your bedroll or your bed, your selected spawn point, with everything that you had on you, including the loot that you obtained in the dungeon. Opening the gateway for this dungeon is going to give you corruption, so I highly recommend bringing something along to cure that corruption, whether that's a dancer or some cleansing brew. That way you can have your full health once you get into this dungeon. You are allowed to go with friends and bring followers into this dungeon with you. Now, as of the creation of this video, there's a huge bug that's going on with this dungeon as it pertains to leveled followers. So if you go in this dungeon with a level 0 follower, by the time you complete this dungeon, that follower is going to come out at level 20. I've done some pretty exhaustive testing with this and it works every single time. I do believe that they'll patch this very quickly, so if you want to take advantage of the leveling in this dungeon, do it right away, don't wait. Now if you have the double jump perk, you're actually able to get out of the arena or out of the way of damage if you wanted to use a bow or something like that to complete this dungeon. I think Sir Dave Wolf was the first one to show this on YouTube, so thanks to him, but this is something where you technically could bring a friend and that person could stand up there and do some damage with a bow, maybe if they're lower level or something like that, but I would expect to see that get patched out of this as well at some point in the future. Most of your sorcery will not work in this dungeon. You're not going to be able to cast lightning or call Fog of the Dead. Anything that affects the area of the map, you're unable to call. That is suppressed. But I do recommend using the Wisp. That is one thing that is not suppressed. And now that it's free, it is nice to be able to use a two-handed weapon with some light. So I recommend using the Wisp. And with the Wisp, you actually get a timer. So the Wisp lasts for 10 minutes, and that can give you an idea of how long you've spent in this dungeon. Especially since this dungeon is a timed event, I highly recommend having something that will give you an idea of how much time you've spent in there. When you finally teleport into this dungeon, you are going to come into a room with a couple of corridors. You want to head off to the left. This area doesn't have any enemies to fight, and there's really nothing of note in this area. You can obviously check it out, take a look around, but don't spend too much time because the timer starts right away. So you're going to want to head off to the left, go through the corridors, and eventually you'll reach a spot where you have to drop down into an arena. Now I like to cast a couple of stationary wisps from this spot, that way I can light up more of the area for the first battle. The first battle is very dark. The sorcerer that you face is going to cast darkness and you are going to get spiders. So I recommend using whatever you have on you in order to light up that area. Like I said, I like to cast a couple of wisps before dropping down. I also use my cleansing brews at this point in time to get my health all the way back up. Now the first fight is timed and it is based on the number of spiders that you kill. So you have to kill the first 5 spiders to make it to the timed section of this fight. Once you reach the timed section of this fight, you have to wait for the sorcerer that's casting the darkness to blink in and out 10 times. On the 10th blink, he's actually going to appear in the arena and you can start to fight him. When you see him blink in, it is important for you to focus your attention on him because killing him will destroy all of the spiders and progress the fight. And honestly, sometimes it can feel like an eternity waiting for him to come and fight you. A tip for harvesting the spiders: if you bring your Zathite ritual dagger along, you can get the Zathite bags, and those are going to be full of skulls and other things that you may want to acquire. I don't recommend harvesting them right away. As long as you do this dungeon quick enough, you should have time at the end to harvest everything that you've killed. It's also a good source of ichor or gossamer if that's something that you need. Just make sure you bring the proper tools to get the resources that you want. The second wave of enemies is going to be golems. Now the golems that are standing as statues around the area when you first come in will start to be animated by the sorcerer striking them with lightning. You get 1 golem at first, and once you kill that golem, another 2 will animate. Once you kill those 2 golems, the sorcerer will actually run down to attack you as well. While he's in the fight, he's always going to animate 2 golems until there are none left standing around the outside edge. So if you want to maximize the number of blood crystals that you're able to harvest from their bodies, you really want to focus your attention on killing the golems first until he gets down to the last 2. Then you can focus your attention on that sorcerer, because when you kill that sorcerer, any golems that are animated already will fall to the ground dead. However, any golems that are still standing as statues around the outer edge, those will not be harvestable. So it's up to you to balance whether you want to attack the sorcerer and kill everything that's animated, or whether you want to wait until he animates all those golems. Killing that sorcerer starts the next phase of this arena event, and that's going to be fog with zombies, and you have grave matter pillars around the outside edges that need to be destroyed. Now, pro tip for this is you can shoot these pillars with explosive arrows to destroy them. It only takes 1 hit with the explosive arrow to destroy it, and that's actually the way that I recommend doing this next section. That was a tip from one of my members in Discord that said to use those instead of attacking them, especially since this area is a maze. Now, these zombies do not continue to respawn, so you could kill those if you wanted to. Spend your time taking out the zombies first, and then take your time looking for the way to get to each one of these pillars. However, it's much faster if you just shoot them with an explosive arrow and destroy them, because all of the zombies drop dead once the pillars are gone. Once you've dispatched of these zombies and the pillars, a large door on the left side of the room is going to open to reveal an enormous rotten dragon, and that dragon is going to fight you alongside its sorcerer. Now, you shouldn't focus on the dragon because it has an enormous amount of hit points. You really want to focus your attention and your attacks on the sorcerer. One thing that I noticed about this fight is the sorcerer will actually take some damage from the dragon. If you can get the dragon to spit fire in a forward direction, not sweeping across, and hit the sorcerer, that sorcerer will take damage from that attack. Additionally, it will get staggered. So if you can make that happen, that's just a bonus for you, but it is rather difficult to make that happen. So what you want to do is just time your attacks properly, run around a little bit, make the dragon attack while the sorcerer is still chasing after you, and then engage in that sorcerer in the most safe way possible that you can. And be very watchful, because this last sorcerer hits like a truck. I have died to this last sorcerer quite a few times, not paying attention to my health bar, thinking that I can just eat a couple of hits while I attack him. Additionally, for fighting this sorcerer and for fighting the golems, I recommend a weapon that has high armor pen, because they have a ton of armor, and getting through that armor is going to make a big difference in the speed of these fights. Once you've killed that last sorcerer, the dragon's going to die as well, and that's going to be the end of the dungeon. You have successfully completed the dungeon. You can walk up and one-shot Karak with just about anything. He only has 2 hit points, so you can literally use a pick or any other item to kill him. However, at this point, you want to make sure, one, that your thrall doesn't just run up and kill him, because you want time to harvest all the things that are in this dungeon. So whether you're going after the Ichor and the from the spiders, or whether you just want to leave with the blood crystals, this is the point in time where you want to stop and do all that harvesting. Additionally, up the stairs to the left, there's a tablet that you can interact with in order to learn the vestments of Karak. That's going to teach you the armor of Karak. Then, once you have done these things, go ahead and kill Karak. When you kill Karak, it starts another timer. It starts spewing acid into the arena, and you want to get out of the dungeon as quickly as possible. You'll notice that a door on the right-hand side of the stairs has opened up, and you're going to want to head through that door and back through the portal that you came in originally. If you fail to complete this dungeon in time, the last thing that you're going to see is a Blood Moon beast spawn in. It is impossible for you to do any damage to the Blood Moon beast, and it is going to kill you instantly. A lot of people have felt that this is a bug. It is not a bug, it is actually intentional, and what it means is that Karak was able to successfully complete his ritual, and that is what spawns in, and you are unable to defeat it. And that happens right around the 15-minute mark, so make sure you are getting in and out of this dungeon within that time period, unless you want to die and be teleported back to your base. And I want to know in the comment section below, what do you think of this dungeon? Do you like it or not? I'd like to thank all my YouTube members for your continued support. Y'all are absolute legends. If you'd like to become a legend, there's a button that says join on this page. Click that for details. There's 2 videos on the screen. Click one of those to watch next, and I'll meet you over there.